Many of you may know me. I'm Jen Sims, the Executive Vice President of Event Rebels. And normally we do our webinars with Casey Hobson, our president, but we do have a guest joining us today to do the webinar. Her name is Ann Sigmund, and she has a lot of background in the world of social media. She was a co-founder of Social Toaster, and she has worked as a marketing technology consultant and as an entrepreneur doing initiatives that help to keep membership and grow membership. And she's going to teach us today the value of social media throughout all the phases of your event. So with that, Ann, why don't you go ahead and get started. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Jen, and thanks everyone who's on with us today. The title interested you, and let me give you an idea of the things we'll be covering today. We'll take a look at the social media landscape and talk about how your audiences interact with you online and the value of that as it relates to all of the phases of your event, through planning, through promotion, the execution of the event, and the follow-up that follows the conclusion of the event. I hope to be able to give you some relevant information as well as practical advice on how to get started, give you some tips on tools that you might use or that you might look at to use, and really just spur some ideas about how you might really integrate social media throughout every phase of your event. So, you know, the things that social media can do, a lot of these things we're aware of, and let's just talk about these for a minute. Certainly you want to reach a wider audience with your event. You want to promote it certainly to your members, yet there's other people that are involved with the event, your sponsors, your speakers, potential members. You know, there's a lot of people that you can promote your event to draw them in to participate. And with social media, they can participate long before the event as well as after the event. By bringing awareness around the event, you can increase sponsorship. You know, the more excitement and the more hype there is around it, the more participation you'll get with sponsors and speakers. You can start social conversations to really get them engaged early on in the process. One of the things that we don't think about is discovering what the member preferences may be in the beginning of planning phases of the event. If you have social conversations that will lead to telling you where their preferences really lie, you can ask questions, you can have Facebook polls. There's a lot of tools that you can use to really discover those member preferences. And of course, we want to create excitement and get broad participation in the event. And with the time that people spend on social networks and the conversations that result, you really can get them involved early and generate that excitement. One of the things to keep in mind throughout this process is to be authentic in your communications and your social conversations. When questions are asked, then, you know, certainly create the conversation and respond to them. You know, social is not a one-way communication channel. It's a two-way channel, and that's very important to remember. So you can really create this interaction and get perspective from everyone who's going to attend. Another added benefit to establishing this content strategy long before your event is to establish your authority in your field. Your content marketing can really be extended by using the event as an amplifier for the content that you normally would be creating and having it shared much more thoroughly. And then, of course, extending the event the value of your event afterwards. You know, you have created a lot of content and you can extend it much further afterwards. So this is a picture of what that social ecosystem may look like. And on this, you know, you're creating content, you're blogging, you have your newsletters, you have events, you know, your event pages, you have campaigns around your event. You're promoting that if you have these social networks, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. You may be promoting it elsewhere as well, YouTube. And the social interaction occurs when you get your members and the other people who are going to be engaged in your event as part of the promotion, as part of the process. Create the social conversations that bring more people in and drive traffic to your event page and your content. And this is where the true value of social comes in, because you're creating this flow of traffic and this flow of conversation. Social's fundamentally shifted the way people gather and digest information, so this is what you really want to leverage throughout the life cycle of your event. So you need to have certain things in place. You know, you kind of need to have a foundation before you can really think about leveraging social in order to promote your event. You may or may not have these things, but even if you have one of these channels on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, if you have any one of these channels, you can begin to leverage that for your event. It's very helpful if you have management tools in place, and there's a lot of different management tools that you can utilize. But most importantly, you really need to have the time. It's really necessary to devote a resource that can focus on what's required and to really be able to execute on your social marketing strategy effectively. Time is probably one of the most important things. Time feeds into every other aspect of your campaign. So when you're starting down this path, you really need to ask yourself questions about what you want to achieve. Set goals for your program. Do you want to educate your members and your audience about the value of the event and what you'll be presenting? Do you just want to create awareness around the event so that members are more excited? Bring in sponsors, bring in speakers. You know, really identify that goal so that you put together a really solid plan. So once you do that, you know the content that you're going to create. You know what you're going to say. And that content strategy then can be put together with those goals in mind to have the consistency and the frequency that it needs for a solid campaign. Going back to the time factor, someone needs to really own it. Someone needs to be responsible for it. It doesn't need to be a large time commitment every day, but the time commitment does need to be there, and it needs to be regularly allocated. Everyone's concerned about negative comments on social media, you know, criticism that you might get. There's also positive comments as well. If you have a social media policy in place so that you know how you're going to handle any type of criticism or negative feedback, you can readily respond to those and mitigate anything that might come about from any type of criticism that you have. Keep coming back to time. Be prepared to invest it. Very important. And then when it comes to managing it, there's certainly tools and resources. Hopefully you learn about some of them in this webinar that you can use to help manage it. And that, of course, reduces the time investment. Define success going into this, because that will tell you whether it really was effective and where you need to make improvement. So whether that is traffic to your event pages, whether it's sponsor sign-up, whether it's social engagement, define what success means so that you can really look at that as your campaign is unfolding and when it concludes to see how successful it was. So when you're going into planning your social media campaign, these are the components that you really want to make sure that are clear for you. Who is your audience? Sponsors, members, potential members, speakers. There's, a value in defining your audience because that's really going to define a lot of the rest of your planning effort. Which social networks should you engage on? If you're an association of professionals, engineers, or something of that nature, LinkedIn, Twitter are going to be your network because, LinkedIn is certainly professional. People go to Twitter for information. So, choose your social network where your audience is going to be listening. And then your content strategy is built around that as well. You can develop a timeline for the promotions and announcements, create a content calendar through all of the phases that we're going to cover so that when you go to execute, it's like pulling out a cue card. You know exactly what you want to do when and the reason for it. Sharing, you want to make sure that social sharing is very easy with icons on all of your event pages, the social sharing initiatives that you might create through having the influencers. You might have certain members who are very active on your behalf. Ask them to be your VIP influencers on their social network. There may also be bloggers who would pick up on your event and talk about it. Look for places where social sharing can be really amplified on your behalf. Of course, part of social is engagement. So you want to be sure that you're monitoring the comments and the conversations that occur. Remember, social is two-way. It's not a one-way conversation. So you want to be sure that you're monitoring things so that you can respond and continue the conversation. How are you going to manage this? We talked about a content calendar, and of course there are a lot of content sharing tools and monitoring tools. Hootsuite certainly is one that most people are familiar with. Another one that has additional features where it has sentiment analysis and auto-responding is Sendable. It's slightly more expensive, not terribly much more expensive. You can use TweetDeck if you're just monitoring and managing Twitter. So, several different tools for you to choose from in managing your program. And then, of course, you want to be able to measure it. This goes back to identifying success and really showing ROI for your efforts. You have analytics on all the social networks, and then also Google Analytics, and it's really easy to create a summary spreadsheet where you can pull these analytics in week by week to really see what's being effective and to show the ROI on your social media campaign. So hashtags are really important, and you really want to think about your hashtags in this planning phase. Should be one simple, short, memorable, obvious hashtag for the event so that it becomes something that you publicize early on. You use it throughout all of the life cycle of your event. You use it on all of the materials that you have. And you want to make it really obvious for everyone who's participating to use that hashtag. You can also choose a few other related hashtags to use in the content that you're promoting in order to foster additional conversation and create additional awareness around the event. So going back to the engineering example, if there's a hashtag for the event, just using engineering hashtags in the content that's being promoted can create visibility around it for you. Of course, tools are important. We've talked about some of the tools, and there's others that I'll mention a little bit later. And those tools really fit into the categories here of content monitoring, engagement, and measurement. And mobile apps, very important for a lot of different events, fosters engagement, also fosters social engagement, not only in regard to the event, but peer-to-peer. So this creates an opportunity for more conversations, more excitement, and more content that's being created. Something to think about as well are paid promotions or paid ads, because particularly on Facebook, to get your message out there to all of your audience, paid promotions are almost a necessity today. Yet paid social media ads can be very effective when you determine the demographics of the people that you want to reach, and you target them on those paid promotions. So this is a breakdown of social media tools, and there's a number of tools listed here, and they're broken down into different types of tools. In the awareness category, you're really monitoring social conversations, social buzz around your industry topic. And this helps to really understand what your audience is interested in, what the hot topics are so that you can incorporate them into your event. Also, of course, know where the conversations are happening. Social channel management, managing the content that you're sharing on your social networks, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. There's passive and active social channel management. In the passive arena, we talked about Hootsuite and Sendable. You're able to really monitor and share content across multiple channels and schedule that content so that it's easily manageable. With active engagement, these platforms are used to have people who would be your influencers or your advocates promote content on your behalf. It also allows you to encourage and reward behaviors. So these are a number of platforms for active engagement. And then, of course, location. Your event is at some awesome location, I'm sure. So asking people to check in at Foursquare, Facebook, upload their photos to Instagram. This is a very powerful social sharing platform. So looking at the life cycle of your event, we'll be talking about each of these phases of the life cycle of your event and how to really utilize social in each of these aspects. So in planning, we'll look towards how you can get better audience and an interactive experience. In promotion, how to create community and get people to participate before the event. In execution, of course, how to get them to interact during the event and have deeper engagement. This is also an opportunity to have everyone at the event create content that lives on after the event and allows you to reuse in follow-up and as well as promoting future events that you have. You can promote a lot of user-generated content used in a lot of different ways. And then in follow-up, your engagement lives on. All of the content that all of the people who attend and all of the people who want to attend who are participating on social lives on and allows you to cultivate community. So I like to use some quotes here and there to really make a point into how you can really leverage each phase of this social media campaign. So in the planning phase, you can really use social media as an idea generator, a trend mapper, and a strategic compass. You can really get a lot of ideas and create a good picture of what your audience is looking for in the planning phase by monitoring and creating those social conversations in the planning phase of your event. So some of the things that you can do is really investigate the audience preferences that you have. We talked about hashtags and the importance of hashtags. You can start using them during the planning phase to ask questions on the social channels. You can create polls on Facebook, polls and surveys elsewhere. And by following and measuring these conversations around the topics, you can really get a good sense, potentially, of what the audience preferences are so that you really know how to plan out the speakers and the sessions at your conference. You can determine sponsor preferences and actually engage sponsors and speakers who may not necessarily be aware of your event or necessarily interested initially, but by following them on LinkedIn, on the social networks, on Twitter, starting your own conversations with these speakers and sponsors, you can get them excited about participating in your event. So by growing sponsorship, you're growing the event revenues in the same way that by growing audience, you're growing event revenues. And of course, you're going to use it in the planning phase to announce that it's upcoming and create awareness around it. So here's an example from AMIA that I pulled off just a couple days ago, where a large component of their audience are student members. So they're really trying to engage high schoolers for the event, creating content with the design challenge, asking who wants to present with the presentation challenge to get people engaged. And you can see how they're using hashtags related to their industry with citizen science and big data and open data, as well as the Twitter handle for AMIA Informatics. So in the promotion stage, if you think about this, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. Audiences are moving in all different directions on social media, and it really adds a whole new dimension because you can activate attendees, sponsors, and speakers beforehand, and this will elevate their group and their individual experiences long before they attend the event. So that's really the game changer with social media. You have the opportunity to really inspire people and for members to inspire members as well. So if you think about a member recommending that to their social network, that word of mouth marketing is really the most effective marketing that you can get. So if you give them the content to share, highlights of past social events, videos, photos, encourage them to share that, you can inspire other people to attend and to participate. Hashtags, again, announce it, use the link to all of your events, to your event and all of the content that you're creating. Use your biggest promoters, start conversations. I keep going back to conversations. They're very important. You have promoters and your speakers and your sponsors. So encourage them to use your hashtag when they're promoting the event and talking about it on their social channels. Of course, your intent is really to create community before, during, and after the event. So you want to have these event pages set up. It allows for robust media sharing and social spread. These are your official social representations of the event. Allows you to build audience and connect long before the event takes place. mentioned paid promotions. Facebook really has a new paradigm, and you're only reaching a very small percentage of your Facebook fans when you post something. So when it comes to a number of these things that are really key to the success of your event, work paid promotions into your budget so that you do reach your complete audience. Something that you can do to really create excitement and engagement, too, is to create social media contests. These contests can be a simple fill in the blank, create an answer, have a question, please answer this question, or flip that. Here's the answer, create the question. Do a photo contest, could be simple Q&A. But, this creates social interaction and also gives you an idea of the sentiments before the event, since you're promoting this during the promotion phase. So here's a promotion from AMIA on their Facebook page, and it brings in a number of different elements. It brings in calls to action. It brings in the image about the event and what it's really intended to do. And then on Twitter, it's really short. Are you ready? Register, hotel, flight. It's really quick and simple and creates excitement. But you also see there's a forum recommendation that's mentioned by one of the members. And one of the members also saying, hey, let's make dinner plans. So if they're all using your hashtags, then that's going to create a lot of visibility around your event and create that excitement beforehand. So when it comes to execution, this is what it's all about. You're going to engage your audience, enlighten them, encourage them to participate. You're going to be genuine to yourself as an organization. Social media is a community effort. Everyone is an asset. Everyone at an event is an asset for you. And the idea is to leverage that asset at your event. So we talked about the Twitter handle. And it's really important that it's promoted everywhere, on printed material, on all of the slides that are shown during the event, promoted before, during, and after, so that people are using it. There's other ways to share the content in a social nature. I don't know how many events everyone's been to. Everybody's on their tablet or smartphone. Give them the ability to interact with you with SlideShare or SlideDog so that they're viewing the slides on their device and they can interact with you while viewing it on their device. Show the social media live feeds. There's a number of different platforms that will aggregate all of them, put them on a large video screen so that people who are browsing by or someone that could not attend a particular session, they can see feedback about it and see what the comments were about what's going on. Of course, you want to monitor and manage the social channels when you're promoting them during your event. And we talked about some of the tools to do that. It's important, too, to think about feeding social conversations and answering the questions that people pose. So, you can encourage people to share with the hashtags and talking about it at the event. You can see conversations. You can ask those questions about, what did you think of this particular session, or that keynote speaker was awesome in this respect. Start those conversations wherever you can. And encourage sharing on multiple networks. The networks where your association presence resides may be different from where the community is engaging, particularly if it's on Foursquare or Instagram. So if the community is engaging on these social networks, encourage sharing there as well, because that is what will fuel the excitement and the engagement and create the community that you want to around the event. So this is an example of how that content can be aggregated. This is actually on this association's website. It was also visible at the event. And you can see it. It creates a wonderful collage of the genuine comments and photographs that were taken at the event. So it creates a very powerful image of what you're doing at the event through this live social sharing. So where and how? Choose your networks that are appropriate for your audience and encourage people to participate on those networks. Some of those networks allow you to encourage different types of engagement beyond just status updates. Photo uploads are very powerful. And Instagram and Flickr are very good ways to have people upload those photos. And one way that you can encourage that is through a best event photo contest, where you award some sort of prize to the person with the best photo and the best comments around it. On Twitter, during any session, it's really helpful to encourage attendees to tweet in their questions. This does a couple things. It allows someone to curate the questions so that you can really ask very important and relevant questions to the speaker. But it also allows people who are attending who may not be quite as comfortable standing up in a room and speaking on a microphone to ask their questions as well. So it gives everyone a chance to participate kind of on an equal level. Of course, on YouTube, if you have the ability, creating videos for post-event engagement can be really powerful. And this is just an example of an Instagram challenge, and it's kind of friendly and fun, just win-free stuff. You can see, though, that their emphasis is on using a Twitter handle and certain hashtags, and it really encourages people to create their photos and upload them. And this creates a very powerful photo collage about your event and about your organization. So in follow-up, it's all about engaging with your fans and building a community. They are not the same thing. The community is the most important thing that is your takeaway from follow-up. You created relationships by people attending the event, and you have the opportunity to continue those relationships through your social media campaigns after your event. First off, be thankful. People want to feel good that they participated. There's a lot of ways to be thankful through social media. Some of that is through direct rewards by using the active engagement program platform. There's other ways to be thankful. It's just simply recognition for all the people who participated, particularly in your social media efforts. Use this opportunity to get feedback. Again, create polls, create surveys, you can create just really little games to get feedback on social media. Ask everyone through email and your social channels to give you that feedback on the social polls or whatever it is you're using to get it. Share your insights as well. One of the tools that you might use is a platform called Paperly, which allows you to create an online newspaper or really just aggregate content into PDF format that can be downloaded and shared very easily. Continue the conversation. Create a story around the event. Another platform called Storify will let you pull content, all that user-generated content, and you can curate it and organize it in such a way that it's the stories from the user about your event and what they really glean from the event. So, and there's nothing more powerful than the users recommending and really showing value in the event. And of course, in growing community, continue the conversation, continue to engage with the people who attended, and let the story live on as long as it can, because you really can get value from all of the content that's generated by your organization, and more powerfully by all of the people who contributed to that before, during, and after the event. So this is an example from SAEA, just asking real simply, did you miss our conference? You can still check out the brochure and find out what we're all about. So this is taking the content from the event, using a tool such as Paperly, and creating this final brochure so that, it's shared to all the people who didn't attend. And, that's current members, future members, and really creates a great message because it's user-generated content. And this is how ACS put together their story around the event. And they've even, in producing this, said this is a storify, to let people know. We've created a story based upon all of the input from all of the members who attended. And please look at how the story unfolded. So this can be very powerful for you in post-event promotion. So in conclusion, I recommend that you do a few things well. If you're not doing any of these things, or you're just doing a couple of these things, just start small. You don't have to do all of this. Just do a few of these things well, and you will reap the rewards from them. Most importantly, make it easy for people to use social media, whether that be through the ease of hashtags, whether it be through the ease of social sharing in a mobile app. Make it easy for attendees to share. Make sure it's a two-way conversation. I keep saying it's not one way, it's two-way. And in doing so, welcome feedback, welcome people to really give you their honest opinion. And once it's concluded, be sure to look at the metrics that you would have gathered, look at how the whole campaign unfolded, what was successful, what wasn't successful, so that you can improve upon it next time, add new ingredients, change up ingredients, so that it can really be effective for you. So that's the conclusion of the presentation. I hope you found some value in how it really can be put together in a cohesive campaign from planning through follow-up. Some good ideas on tools and some tips on how you can create engagement